Welcome back. You're still watching SABC News Prime. So the story of the day is the statement that was made by the presidency today that recalled Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan from his trip in the UK, the promotional investment tour that he was taking there. And the Deputy Minister, Kobisi Jonas, was to fly to America this week to do the second leg of that particular tour, whilst the Finance Minister was due to return. All bets are off now. Finance Minister will be back here first thing tomorrow morning. And to get a sense politically of what's happened, because before the break we heard the economic view, let's join our political analyst, Dr. Somadoda Fikeni, who's in Pretoria this evening, and he's from UNISA. Thank you very much for joining us today. Your thoughts, your immediate reaction when you saw the statement from the presidency?
Well, I do think that we have always been expecting a cabinet reshuffle, and also we were always saying that given the tensions within the cabinet itself, particularly between the Minister of Finance and the President, at a certain point someone will have to give in, and the President might be flexing his muscle as a precursor to a cabinet reshuffle.
Is that the most likely scenario, that a reshuffle is on the way?
There is every indication that there will be a reshuffle. The question is whether it will be triggered by this particular action and be followed immediately with an announcement, or it may take some time, but that there will be a reshuffle, there is an absolute certainty around that.
So it would seem then, if there is a reshuffle, it would come at some cost. If just the statement that we got today, we saw the Rand drop 3% just on a statement saying he's coming back from London.
There is no doubt that any cabinet reshuffle, particularly that which touches on the treasury, will have the impact. The question is whether it will have the same reaction as the Nhlanhla situation, or it will be less or worse than that. There is no question that you will have a financial cost to this. But we already have conflicting statements on the issue of land reform. We have conflicting statements on the view of the rating agencies. So the environment is already fluid for any investor anyway.
So what do we do? I mean, how can business respond? How can citizens respond? Do we just sit and wait and hope for the best?
I do think that at this stage we just have to debate issues, because as citizens they have to reflect what they like and what they don't like out of the picture that is emerging, because sitting back doesn't help. But that does not mean that it is going to reverse the internal wrangling and the internal factional politics within the ANC.
So the Secretary General of the ANC this afternoon, Gordhan, said that they don't know how these things happen inside government, that they don't know who gets called for what. Is he suggesting that the party has no control over government? Or is this just a convenient way of avoiding a tough question?
Well, I do think that the posture of the press conference or press briefing this afternoon was to avoid as much of speculation, as much of controversies as possible. And one can only look at the top 6 meeting this evening, because if anything is coming, the briefing will take place there. And it will also be an indication as to whether the top leadership of the ANC is able to persuade the president, if the president was thinking of a reshuffle. Because the worst case scenario would be a reshuffle based on loyalties, political loyalties, instead of performance. And the best case scenario would be to align the priorities of the day with a cabinet reshuffle based on performance of ministers. And this is coming very fast after Parliament pronounced on some of the ministers, after Cabinet late last year pronounced on one of the ministers. So to that extent, it will be interesting to see whether those ministers affected will be negatively affected by any change, or because of loyalty they may actually ascend to higher positions.
So what compelling reason could the president put forward, given that he has limited time left as president now, to reshuffle a cabinet that might only sit for 18 months, if that?
Well, I do think that there are a number of reasons that he may invoke. The first one could simply be my working relations with the finance minister and the deputy finance minister has reached a point where it is not retrievable. And as such, I do think that they are now oppositional to anything I'm trying to do. That's the first one. The second one could simply be to say we are reconfiguring the cabinet in order to fulfill the radical economic transformation which has now been more frequently mentioned, at least rhetorically, in the recent past. And those are the two reasons that might actually be presented. But of course, in politics, in a year of elections and in a factional environment, we have to look at reasons behind the reasons.
Okay, so I suppose people at home are wondering, what's at stake then at Treasury? Why would the president want Pravin Gordhan, Mcebisi Jonas out of the way? Is there something on the other side of a cabinet change, or because it's going to be a hard sell to suggest that Pravin Gordhan is not capable of doing his job, or is doing his job badly?
Well, I do think that the first reason that I given to say that the tensions between the Treasury and the President might be used as a reason to say this is frustrating the President from achieving his goals, especially in the last year and a half or 2 years of his cabinet. And the other reasons, more cynical, might be that there are people in the political patronage networks who may be frustrated by the fact that Treasury has this extraordinary power to override and sometimes to even veto some of the big tenders, as we are talking of 1 trillion for the infrastructure. And precisely because of that, they would have to be different kinds of people at the driver's seat of Treasury. That's a more cynical view that has been more dominant in the public discourse.
All right, Dr. Fikeni, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much indeed for your insights on a story that I suspect has only just begun. We'll continue to monitor that for you. Francis?